The Sons of Liberty. How do I transition this? The Sons of Liberty were formed from the many outrageous taxes that Britain was putting on the colonies at the time. The Sons of Liberty were composed of mainly merchants, craftsmen, and other artisans who didn't like the taxes that were being imposed on them. And their main motives were to essentially just harass people and riot in order to get the king's attention to listen to their demands. Now we can't talk about the Sons of Liberty and how they were formed without talking about the Stamp Act. So the Stamp Act of 1765 was the first tax that angered the colonists. The act itself is that every single piece of paper or document had to be printed on a certain type of piece of paper that had this stamp on it. And when I mean every single type of piece of paper, I mean every single type of piece of paper, from things like newsletter articles to even playing cards. You know, they had this stamp on it. So just think of like the most annoying and obnoxious watermark just in the way, and you just can't see anything. Now, in terms of taxing people, I don't actually know how it works, but apparently the colonists knew and they didn't like it. So what they did is that they banded together into a group and they forced the people that put the stamps on it to resign through means of intimidation. So you can imagine what they told them was not good. So through this, these groups, they formed the Sons of Liberty, and they began to pop up in places like Boston and New York and eventually spread throughout the other colonies. Now the Sons of Liberty began to... Now the Sons of Liberty, they only began to grow with each passing tax law or acts, which, you know, only fueled their anger towards the king and Britain itself. Especially with the Townshend Act, which essentially just put a tax on like everything, including stuff like glass, paper, lead, paint, and tea. That's going to be important later. So in places like Boston, fights began to break out between the colonists and, you know, British soldiers that were just there. And a particular time was when, in the evening, a group of colonists who were angry with things like the Townshend Act were harassing and bullying a single British soldier that was guarding the Boston Customs House at the time. And, you know, I'm not sure what that building is, but it sounds important. Anyways, the soldier eventually, you know, after being pelted with things like rocks and snowballs, he called in reinforcements, who tried to make a defensive stance in front of the Customs House. And essentially it just kept, it was just, they were just fighting off a big mob of angry colonists. So what they just did is they just started, as you can see, they just started shooting, killing 5 and wounding 6, which is kind of surprising because they were at point blank range when this happened. Surprised there wasn't more. That's it for the Boston part. Just kidding, because I forgot the Boston Tea Party, which is one of, I like to call the greatest hits in terms of what the Sons of Liberty have done to defy the king. So the Boston Tea Party was in, obviously, Boston, and it was one of the biggest defiances against the British rule since they formed. So, you know, because of all the recent riots, Britain has actually done something. They have removed some of the taxes, but they've still left a select few, including the tax on tea, which, you know, increased the prices of tea and stuff. What they did is that they grouped up overnight, and throughout the night, and I think through the morning as well, they dumped a reported 342 chests of tea into the water, and the chests look like this, with the flowers on it, and the box. which has which is insane and is worth over 100. Nope, that's too much. $1 million in today's money. So of course this act only supercharged the colonists' want for revolution, and of course this is one of the main driving forces for the for America's independence from Britain and eventually the Revolutionary War. And that's about it.